First of all, let's give Fred, Ruben, and Julie a big round of applause for their putting themselves out there and spending some time with us, giving us their tips and tricks for open house. I'll have a $50 Starbucks card for you.
Salary.
It's all on video. Hey, Fred, it's on video. It's all there. So let's get rolling. And what I wanted to start out with you guys was, first of all, overall philosophy about open house. Like what, and whoever wants to jump in, what's your approach? What are you thinking about as far as what would be a successful open house for you?
Well, I'll start. I think at the end, after you do a lot of other stuff up front, a successful open house is where you walk away with at least one email address. Because once you have their email address, their contact information, there's a strong possibility that they're going to be your client at some point in the future. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. But once you've got that, then you have a way of ongoing communication with them. So I think at the end of the day, if you can get one email address, which I think is very possible on every open house you do, that's your goal.
Okay.
Mine is essentially the same thing. However, I am not big on pressuring people into giving me information. I don't have people do a sign-in sheet. I always approach it as, if you want to give me your contact information, feel free, but here's my business card. If I can just start to build that relationship, if we have anything in common, I'll start to say, oh, so if they mention oh, I like wine, or I like this or like that, I try to hop onto that, start to build a relationship, and here's my business card. If you ever have any questions, do not hesitate to shoot me a text message, email me, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Okay. Ruben?
Very similar to what they're saying as well. I wrote down when I was doing some stuff what I thought, and mainly it's just have fun to meet new people. That's it for me. Just getting out there and talking with people, building rapport. Also is having sort of the next step plans for follow-up with those individuals. That just with one person, that would be a successful
open house for you. If you got one new contact that you could follow up with. Okay, awesome. So what about strategy of picking an open house, right? I mean, how about access roads? Do you do open house on access roads, things like that? What is the best site for an open house?
For me, I like to pick something at least 500,000 or more, because that's sort of in the middle. It gives me room to do some top-down selling if possible, or move someone up if they're looking for something for more. I prefer something in the woods. I prefer something with easy access that I could, throw up as many hours, throw up as many signs as possible. And I found after doing a lot of different open houses, my best hours are between 12 and 4.
What day?
Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah,
either one.
I agree with the 12. In fact, I kind of tend to lean towards 1 to 4, 1 to 4:30, 2 to 4. I get more action in the latter part of the day than I do in the beginning part. I've tried 11:30. Most of the time you end up sitting there until about 2:33, and you're like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna shoot my brains out. When it comes to access, the biggest, I have never held an open house on an access road. It doesn't make sense to me. Pick something that's easy to sign, easy to get to, has decent parking, so when if you do get multiple sets of people, you don't want people trying to find a parking spot. If they can't find parking, they'll drive right past you. So try to do something where you can get more cars in there than just 1 or 2 at once.
Or not too many steps.
And not too many steps.
Yeah. I think that's a good curb appeal, because if it doesn't, they'll drive by. I think maybe in all the years that Lorena and I have been doing it, there's only been once where the person that came to that open house was interested in that home. So if you think you're going to get a client for that home, it's probably unlikely. Point being, the price of the home that you pick will probably attract buyers in that price range. So if you're sitting in a home in the woods that's $300,000, you're probably going to attract a lower end woods client. If you're sitting in a house that's $800,000, you're probably going to attract an $800,000 buyer. what we found recently in the last couple of years is now with Zillow and Realtor.com, many people that potentially are going to come to your house, if you've put it on Zillow and Realtor.com, know before they walk in the door the price of the home, which is a good thing, because if you're sitting in an $800,000 house, the first thing I ask them is, how did you find the open house? And if they say, well, I saw it on Zillow, you know that they drove up there to look at least your house.
Yeah.
If they say, well, I live down the street, or I was just driving by, then who knows? So curb appeal is critical. Location, I think, if you think about it, more people drive down North Bay and 173 than they probably do Grass Valley.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, we have had less luck in the golf course area than we have anything that's closer to the lake. In terms of times, I can't really tell you whether Saturday or Sunday's better. People will say, well, Sundays aren't good because people are packing up and they're going home if they're here for the weekend. Saturdays, they're at the village or they're at the lake. I think 12 to 4, as Julia said, is probably the most common time people do it. However, if you get outside of that parameter, you have less competition.
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody's doing 12 to 4 and you stay till 5 or 6 or you get there at 10, you may
Switch up.
have less competition than if you're there in the middle part of the day. Think about where you're at. If you're close to Church of the Woods, probably be a good idea to be set up, ready to go with your signs and everything when church lets out. So.
I can attest to the location thing completely because I have held Riviera open so many times and have literally sat there for hours not doing anything with nobody, even after posting it on Zillow, boosting it on Facebook, like doing all of your you know, like marketing type of things on social media. But if you get over to like Rocky Point, anywhere here between the village is a good one, and it's super easy to sign. It takes like 3 signs.
Fred, what percentage of the people that you get in there do you think saw it on Zillow or
I would say
MLS or
currently maybe 25%.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So it's really pretty good. So
Yeah.
make sure you do that. That's critical to getting people that definitely have an interest, particularly in that price range.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next question.
Okay.
So he said
Oh, sorry.
question.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say something about your golf, because I did a lot last year, and actually I did Bel Air Court, which is over by the golf course, and I picked up a buyer and I took them out the very next day and we closed escrow. They found something the next day, so it really, you never know with open house, but I think, you know, a good thing is like you've got to try everywhere, but I do agree with you, but I just wanted to make that point that, you know, when I sat Rocky Point and I never got anybody, but then I went over to, I don't think you want to keep sitting in the same house over and over again, that's another thing. I think you want to like switch, to me it was like switching it up.
Another good thing to do is if you know that other agents in our office are having an open
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
call them on Monday and say, hey, Soph, how did you do?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I got 12 people and you got 1, then maybe her location's better. So,
Fred, when you send it, make sure you get it on Zillow and all the other, the MLS, when she posts it on the various MLSs, it feeds out there, correct?
yeah, I post it
Or-
on RIM and CRMLS, and it does feed
It
those
feeds to
third-party
those.
sites. Though I still go and put it on the third-party sites just because I want to make sure that
So
I know.
you do that, the second time then.
Yeah.
So can I ask my question?
Go ahead.
Here's exactly what these guys are all talking about. So what promotion do you do? Okay, in other words, you're putting it on Zillow, right? Fred, you maybe can explain a little bit about that, right? Not just putting it in MLS, you do some additional stuff. Is there any other promotion you guys do for the open house?
I've run a Facebook ad before. It's hit and miss. I mean, the full Facebook ad thing in general. I know we've gone through like 2 or 3 trainings now. I still think it's like a little cloud up in the sky, and you're like, how do I get there? But you can do like target. You can, when you go and you do your target parameters, you can make sure you're choosing people who are in the area. That's a huge portion because you don't want to be doing your traditional targeted ad where like my traditional targeted ad goes out to Yorba Linda or Upland or Huntington Beach or something like that. I'm not going to put my open house in front of them necessarily speaking. I'm going to put it to people who are up here already. So I choose people who are in the zip code. and I narrow it down that way. And I've had like 2 people come in through that.
Juliana, I was wondering how far in advance do you do that? An ad? Like,
Yeah.
do you do it a week prior? Do you do it a few days?
Most of the time, I don't know I'm doing an open house until like the day
Right.
before.
I mean, ideally, you should start that Monday before the weekend.
Mhm.
I mean, that would be ideally, but most of the time, it's just like,
Yeah.
if I don't have anything scheduled for a Saturday or Sunday, then
My open
I'll
house
go
is the day
grab and try to get open house, just
Yeah.
keep this up.
So maybe like generally speaking, I'll know if I'm doing an open house by Thursday or Friday, weather permitting. That's been the hardest thing as of late.
Right.
And I'll start on Thursday or Friday and then run it through to Sunday.
Okay.
We usually start on Thursday because we wait to see what our schedule's gonna be for the weekend. And then I think another part of a good open house are new listings.
Yeah.
So we wait till broker tour on Thursday, and if there's a wow house, then we go, okay, this would be a great one to do this weekend.
I've never done any promotion other than just promoting on my social media sites, but one of the things I do want to do that I've been thinking about doing is doing a promotion with someone else, like a lender, and have a lender there with me. So that's something that I'd like to do, you know, especially in the warmer months.
Sure, that would help with traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah, because they can promote it as well.
Yeah. So you got, one of the things that I hear people doing that doesn't sound like we do is contacting property owners around there and inviting them, you know, making those phone calls to the 25 people that live on that street or whatever.
One time I've handed out flyers at one,
Yeah,
just to let them know I was doing an open house.
right.
Did it work?
Okay.
Did
I know, but it's
Just kidding.
it's, you know, that goes to part of my idea of doing that is, you know, my mindset for an open house. I go in with the mindset that I'm trying to attract a listing.
Mhm.
And so that's why, you know, I need to start doing that more.
So traditionally, that's not the way people think about open house. That's kind of an eye opener probably for a few people that, you know, that is the main goal is to try and get other listings.
Yeah.
You know, attract sellers. as
Yeah,
well.
to me, when I do that, and I have a listing appointment Sunday for someone I'm at an open house, and someone else is fixing up his house that is looking to do that as well. So they're starting to fall, you know, go in the funnel. But it's to me, the buyers come easier that way.
Mhm.
So it's just a mindset.
But you're on stage, right? When you're in that open house, and you have those sellers walking in, how you're presenting yourself, and you're presenting the house matters. So if you're sitting there eating your Subway sandwich when they walk in, you don't get it.
And that's part, you know, as far as my setup, I always try to look busy. I have my laptop up, I have papers out, I always try to look busy.
Yeah, okay, cool.
No TV.
Plus,
What
it
other-
makes it
Even though
easier.
maybe on
The
Facebook.
time goes by faster.
But on your promotion, like, you make sure you get it on Zillow, like you do Zillow, or whatever else you get putting.
Zillow, Realtor.com, Trillia, Redfin,
Okay.
and then both MLSs. And that's what we do. We don't do any other type of marketing. I think the signing, we talked about it a little bit. When you're putting the signs out, or when you're doing anything for an open house, think about the time you're spending. Sometimes it's only a minute or two to do something versus the potential of getting a commission check for $10,000. Think about the signing. And see, the worst part about an open house, I think, is putting out the signs. It's kind of a pain, but there's usually more than one way to get to a house. Take the extra 10 minutes, put the extra signs out, and maybe you're going to attract a buyer. The other thing we haven't talked about, the reason we do open houses, because it's free. There's very little that we do that doesn't cost you money, and doing an open house doesn't cost you a penny. It's only your time. And you know, take a book or read a book. Take your computer, do something on the computer. If there's a TV, watch the football game. Turn it off when people walk in the door, obviously. But
Great comments. So, a live one walks in the door. How do you greet them? Like, what do you say to them? Where are you standing? Like you say you're busy.
Yeah,
like,
I always try to set up in an open space where I can see someone walking in, whether it's a kitchen or a bar or whatever, or a table. I don't generally walk up to people and greet them at the door. I let them come to me. My first line that I always use is, you know, I introduce myself and I ask them if they live up here. because I know it's gonna strike up a conversation, because most people don't live up here that are going to open houses. And then that leads me to, you know, more open-ended questions as far as where they live, where they come from, are they up here visiting, and what do you know about the area, all of that.
All questions, right?
Yeah.
Mine's very similar to that. I don't ever hover by the door. I'll sit there, and because I have like my laptop, or I'll bring something, I kind of let them come in naturally. I don't want to be that like agent where they're like constantly, okay, so you're here, sign in. That's not my MO. So mine's very
If you
similar.
want to come in, you got to sign here first.
Exactly. Mine's very similar to like.
What's the password?
Exactly. And then if they have kids, of course, the little kids are almost always screaming little terrors, but let them go, because then it kind of puts the parents at ease, I've noticed, when they're not freaking out. Like, if obviously you don't want them running on the furniture or anything like that, but just, if the kids go, then just I let them go. They can go mess around as long as it's like within range, and that way you can talk to the parents a little bit more, and you can, so where are you from? Are you just visiting for the day? What all are you looking for? And you can kind of get into that.
I think we do the same thing, but in a different order. I'll go up to the door, greet him, hi, I'm Fred, thanks for coming to the open house, give him a flyer, because again, the more you can give them that's got your contact information, your picture on it, the better. So I give them that, tell them, hey, the price of the house is this, it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, feel free to walk around. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And then let them go walk around. Then once they've done that, then I kind of do what they say in terms of, you have to open a dialogue with them, because they're not going to only go to your open house. They're going to go to Julia's, and they're going to go to mine, and they're going to Ruben's. So you got to set yourself apart. So anything you can do to create a dialogue with them. I usually ask if they live in the area, and if it's I live down the street, they're probably a looky-loo. You don't know. But if you end up with a second client walking in the door, and they say, I always say, how did you see the open house? And if they say, I saw it on Zillow, and you know you only can be with one of the two, or you're going to talk to the lady that lives next door, or you're going to talk to somebody that drove up there because she saw it on Zillow. Ask them if they understand lake rights.
Yes.
Just create any kind of dialogue. And then as you're talking to them, ask them where do they live, and anything you can do to connect with them. You live in Yorkland? Well, so did I. You lived there for 30 years. Because when they walk out the door, they need to say to themselves, you know, when we're ready to list or buy a home, I'm going to call Julia.
I think it's
somewhere they can remember you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's sales, and we all know this, but the more you can build a relationship with anybody, and just find one thing you can try and be in common with them, and then you can build, like what Fred and Ruben are saying, you could just build off of that, and that will help set you apart.
So can I ask a question?
Go for it.
So you talked about getting emails. How do you get them to give you?
Again,
You're
we
killing me. That's my question.
I did not ask.
You asked it better than me.
Steve,
You
you were
asked
up
it better.
before.
That's kind of the last thing I do. Once I've kind of connected with them, found out kind of what they're looking for, what we say is we have a service that we provide to clients. That we can set you up on an auto notification with the parameters that you want, price, bedrooms, baths, fixer, whatever. And we have a sheet that we ask them to fill out, and we say, just fill out the information that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's got everything on it, from name, address, home phone, cell phone. If they want to leave it blank, they leave it blank. As long as you get their email address, that's the main thing.
Do you do that on paper and pen, old-fashioned way?
Yeah, I do it on paper and pen. Everybody's comfortable with that, so depending on whether they're
You have a form?
young, we have a form.
And you could share that with me later, and I can send it to her.
Yeah. And it just asks all the pertinent information. And then we say to them, because we don't want to be pushy. I agree with what they said. You don't want to be pushy. We say, this is a service that we provide. It's free. I'm not going to call you. I won't bug you. Our contact information's there. If you have questions, feel free to call me. Now, that doesn't negate you following up with them. I recommend you follow up with them every month. Whatever way you feel comfortable with. Like if you're going to follow up with somebody now, send them an email. Say, hey, the lake's full.
Yeah.
come on up and check it out.
come up and check it out, yeah, or if you get if there's a new listing out there that meets their parameters like exactly, and you know that's the perfect home, shoot them an email, text them, whatever.
I don't, you know, going back to something else, I don't use flyers. I don't take flyers to open house. My flyer is the Coldwell Banker Arrowhead Woods map. And when people say, hey, where's the flyer? Can I get a flyer? I have an iPad and I have my laptop and I have it hooked up through IQ, through the login page. And I said, here, you fill this out and you'll get a flyer immediately, either to your phone via text or email. And that way I collect their information, it goes into IQ and I have it in the CRM. And I've never had an issue with that. Never. Anyone that,
So if you want a flyer, you gotta give your email.
if they're serious enough, they're gonna fill it out. And I've used that from day one.
See, mine's a little like in between, to be honest with you, because I do the paper flyers and I hand them out like as I'm getting to know them, and like you walk through the house and all that kind of good stuff. And then at the end, if they're like, oh yeah, so we're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 500 and under, I'm like, okay, so do you want to write down your information? And that way I can send you a text message or an email with a direct link to my app or my website, which feeds directly from the MLS. And it will give you all of the new homes that come on the market, and you can sit through there and you can see everything. So that way I flyer and my business card, because I'm a tangible person. I like something, like myself, I like something that I can hold. But on the other end of that, I'm also capturing their information whenever I do log in, when they do log in and all that kind of good stuff. And then what I like to do is I'll set them up on it, and then as soon as they leave type of thing, and if it's like if there's several people, then I'll wait. But then after that, I'll shoot them a text message or an email. Hey, just want to make sure you did get the link or it's working properly. If not, let me know and I'll make sure I can make the right adjustments.
When I get them to fill out the information, it gives me an opportunity to ask them for permission to add them to my direct mail list as well. I say, hey, I send out a newsletter, you know, do you mind if I send you that? And they say, yeah, and then when they're gone, I take their email and I add it to my constant contact database.
A couple of other things, if it's not your listing, there's 2 questions that you should know the answer to, because you're gonna get asked the question, and it is, how long have people own the house?
Yep.
And why are they selling?
Yeah.
And if you don't know that because it's not your listing, you're not gonna look like you know what the heck you're doing. So find that out ahead of time.
I think that's personally, I think that's the biggest thing. Pick the listing agent's brain to no extreme. Like when I held Dogwood open, I didn't really ask you, but I asked Jackie. When I hold Sophie's listing, like the team listings, if you guys are on a team or what have you, it's great because then you, generally speaking, have a fairly good knowledge of the property because you've talked about it. Like when I hold Alpin, I can say a whole slew of things about the house. Oh, they just repaired the decks and they've done this and they've done that. And it makes it a lot easier because it's not like you're misleading them in any way that you are the listing agent. However, they automatically think that because you know all of this information about this property, that you are somehow tied to it and you're going to represent them the best.
Excellent point, really, very good.
Yeah, and homes I'm not familiar with, I'll preview them before.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's huge, yep.
So just become familiar, and then I get all the specs off the MLS listing, so
Exactly.
I know square footage, you
bedrooms,
know,
bathrooms,
yeah, everything
the
right off
layout.
the bat.
Any other tips or tricks on getting their information?
Sophia's one.
No, I don't
sorry.
have quite the carry on. My question can wait because that's not on that.
Anything else?
Tips and tricks on.
Oh, well, you
No.
gave me a good one, sorry.
Yeah.
When I did your open house at D-Lane, which was a really good one, we did a lot of
Yes.
drawing
Uh-huh.
for a gift certificate, and that
Right.
was a really good one. And I had like a promotion thing saying $50, and I said to people like, do you want to enter the drawing? And we sent them a $50, I think it was, to the
Yeah.
grapevine or something
Yeah.
like that.
It was.
And that was a holiday weekend, and that was
Yeah.
a good way because it was like crazy busy, and I had a lot of people coming in, and you know, kids and everything. And it's, I mean, I love Ruben's aggression with doing the technical one, but it's difficult when you've got a lot of people. That was a really good one. Like, I'm doing a lucky drawing. I mean, that's
Right.
I think to boot off of that, during a holiday weekend, you most definitely should do
Yeah.
something like that, or food or something. I have potential buyers we're looking in the 1.4 range that I got from an open house over a holiday weekend because we did food.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, whatever can set you apart, especially on a holiday weekend, because we aren't the only office, and within our office, where almost all of us are going to be doing open houses. So if Coldwell Banker itself can do something special, awesome, but we're also competing against Remax and Capri and everybody else. So we just need to, you have to elevate yourself and separate yourself in some way, shape, or form.
Kind of tying into that, what we do is we call it takeaway. Something that they can take with them when they walk out the door. And Steve has given us a ton of stuff, Coldwell Banker, historical information, because a lot of people that come up here, they don't know Coldwell Banker from Remax or Lynn Wilson. So using those materials to create something that you can give them, maybe a nice cover page with your picture and name and contact information on it, so when they walk out the door, they've got that. Maybe they go home and they put it on the coffee table, and a month from now it's there. They stick it in their glove compartment. So yeah, again, a takeaway, something that they can take away from that gives them more information about Lake Arrowhead.
Great. So
That was really what I was going to ask you guys, if you'd like to put together some kind of package, like, you know, I mean, I always do like lake rights, you know, some information about lake rights and the map, and some information about Coldwell Banker, and I put it together in a little folder with my card and say, you know, just keep this for a rainy day, you know.
I like the concept. I like the concept of having a bio piece, even if it's just a one pager on the top of your packet that says these are the 3 reasons why Fred Wagner's your guy.
Yeah.
You know, whatever those you know, I work hard for you, I've got updated information, whatever it is. But to have that, you know, to where when they walk out and they're kind of sorting themselves out in the hotel room. At the end of the day, they've been to 15 open houses. You know, wow, this guy really looks like he knows what he's doing.
Right.
My takeaway is always the map, the Coldwell Banker map that we have, and I staple my card on it.
Yeah.
And because it's I mean, I would say 90% of the time when you bring up the question about do you understand about lake rights, how that works.
Most of the time.
And I always have a map open and I use that, and they're always asked, do you have an extra one? I say, yeah, right here, and I give it to them, my card's stapled on it.
Right.
Staple your card to everything. Have Homes and Land magazine, Resort Homes, the Arrowhead magazine, newspaper, any material you can have there. Again, to slow them down. It's kind of like a speed bump to keep them in the house. Another thing, I found that the higher priced home, the people tend to stay longer than they do in a low end property. So again, a better opportunity to have interaction with them.
One thing, I haven't done it in a while, but I take those little water bottles and do my information on it and stick that on it. You can get those, you know, labels that are the address labels that are that big, and stick it on there, and then they take a water with them and your information.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
Your stuff's on there, so that's kind of
Sticker business cards are a really good idea.
Yeah.
You just slap those on, you know, I mean, that's something else. They're not that expensive to have those made up.
Water, everybody takes water, so.
Great points. What about multiple people? You have multiple people. You talked about that a little bit, Fred. You know, that you got to kind of navigate, you know, but you get multiple people come in. How do you handle that, right? Actually, before we do that, let's answer the question, do you walk through the house with people? Like, how do you handle the showing of the house? Do you let them go? Do you walk with them?
I let them go.
You say, this is the kitchen, this is the bathroom.
I think it kind of depends on the house.
It depends on the house a little bit, but I think for most of the people in the room are women. I think from a safety perspective, as a woman, to be taking them upstairs and downstairs by yourself maybe is not a good idea. If there's things that you need to point out, like there's a master bedroom downstairs with a steam shower, or there's radiant heating in the flooring, you can verbally tell them that. But I think for women, it's not a good idea to go off the main level.
Fred, do you think that the sellers that own these properties expect every one of us to go to every room because, you know, they might be stealing something? Do you have any?
We've never had issues with that, and a lot of times you're going to get more than just a husband and wife, and they don't necessarily even stay together because the wife's looking at the kitchen and the guy's out looking at the garage. So even if you try to be with them at all times, you can't. We always tell them ahead of time, you know, put any valuables, jewelry, watches away, or better yet, take them out of the house so they're not there ever. But I don't think the expectations that you're going to be, and if you get more than one person at the same time, you can't do it.
I generally let them go.
Yeah.
And if there's like a little clock in my head, say, hey, where are they at? And then I'll go and then try to find them and say, hey, you guys have any questions? How things going? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally let them do.
So you're not showing them through and pointing out the fact that there's a kitchen in the house.
It does have a bathroom,
exactly.
flush toilets.
Like what Fred said, if there's like something super crucial that they should know about, like it has an amazing family room or something with a built-in audio-visual system, I'll say, okay, on this level there's this awesome family room, everything's built in, blah, 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 blah. That way they can anticipate it when they know about it.
So that kind of answers the multiple people question a little bit too. You're not, I mean, you probably just warn the people, hey, there's somebody else here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but you're not necessarily, but there could come a time where you end up with two people that are relatively hot prospects in the same room at the same time.
It's challenging.
upstairs.
It's challenging because you
hard.
really don't know, and it depends. You know, it depends on the conversation you're having.
Yeah.
Like Fred mentioned earlier.
One other thing that will help with this, your initial introduction before you let them go, walk through the house, ask them, are you working with another agent?
Yeah, that's
Because if they say, yeah, I'm working with
Then you don't
so-and-so,
wanna waste
and then you
your
get
time.
another person that comes in, and you know, you let them go.
Yeah, exactly.
Great question.
Can I ask, at what point do you say, I mean, I know it's difficult to kind of like work that, but what point do you kind of say that? I mean, obviously you don't want to say it so you walk through the door, but it's kind of like.
Kind of hard.
I think once you
You have to be
once you build up some little bit of rapport, a little conversation, I ask them.
I ask them after they viewed the house.
Yeah.
And even when they say that, you still help them out. And then I've had people say, you know what? I said, I'm like, give me your card because I want, I may want to work with you and stuff like that. And
Yeah, that's happened to me as well. But I
you seem to know a lot. They always, the more the conversation you have, the more rapport you build with them. Because they may have just like.
If they give you a name, do you make a funny face or anything?
No, but I usually say, if it's a Coldwell banker agent, I said, they're a great agent.
I always do that.
Yeah, they'll take good care of you.
They're a great agent. Like, I know, like, I've said, like, open houses and, like, Sophie's clients have come in, oh, she's great, she's on my team, da-da-da-da, It's easy when it's like that, but if it's, like, Sue Ellen, you're like, oh, okay.
I've had one of Joe Marquez's customers come in to probably like 4 of my open houses, so I know them now.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Joe, so I always give him a hard time after. I said, "What are you doing on weekends?" I said, "I'm taking care of your customers."
So in general, local agents, work. But if it's not a area person, there's definitely value in trying to push for that, so you can help.
Another thing that I would be really careful with, and as you hold more and more open houses, there are like people who are like serial open house people.
Yeah.
You will see the same people every damn weekend. And you're like, hi guys, how are you? And you're like, okay, I saw you last weekend. Like, you know this house probably just as well as I do right now. And so the biggest thing is if you can, I'm not that great with names, but I'm really good with faces.
Yeah.
So, oh, didn't I see you last weekend? Or didn't I see you at the open house on blah, blah, blah? And then that way, it's like they remember you and they know you're still here, obviously, you're onto them, but you're not wasting your time either. Because there's been times where I was holding open last, and these people, I see them at every single open house, and they love every house!
Oh, yeah.
And they never bought anything! And I see them literally at every open house, and there was multiple people coming through. I was like, see you later, bye. Because I know they're not gonna move anything, so like I focused and shifted to the other clients who walked in, which ultimately I did get their contact information from. So you have to kind of make that determination.
So Fred, you mentioned it, safety.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that as part of my deal here, but even for the guys, I mean, what couple things can you share that you think about with regard to safety?
Yeah,
like not coming off the main floor, right? Not putting probably not turning your back to anybody, right?
Well, Lorraine does she always hides her purse. She'll put it in the oven or a drawer in the kitchen so it's not out visible.
That's what I do too.
Because if they want to steal something from your purse, they'll distract you and move you away from your purse. So she always hides her purse. She always keeps her cell phone in her hand with her. She always locks the car, and she doesn't leave anything in the car that's valuable. Dieter, several years ago, had his car parked in the garage, and somebody, while he was doing the open house, went into the trunk, found his briefcase, and he had his wallet in his briefcase.
Oh my gosh.
So anything can happen. Does it happen very often? No. I don't think it's something that you need to have a big concern about. Don't go off the main floor, hide your purse. She always, while she's turning
the
on
office knows that you have an open house
Yeah,
where you're at.
exactly.
Yeah, she also keeps the front door locked while she's setting the house up, turning on all the lights and stuff when she's on a
When you're
different
turning it.
floor.
I do that.
Really? No, I lock the door when I'm setting it up and when I'm
Or
closing
when
it
I'm
down.
closing up.
Mhm.
But I am not as cautious with my electronics, because I do have my iPad
Yeah.
and my laptop, you know, on
And I
one
just
level,
leave it.
and I could be on another level.
I know.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question on safety, you know, unless you're Alex doing an open house. When you guys are two people, but when there's just a female by themselves, like when Bethany and I have done it, I've never been really scared of anybody that's come in, but I'm always like suspect of everybody that comes in.
It's good.
So I always like leave the front door open, I always have the back door open, it's got a staircase down, and then I just kind of, you know, just get a feel for
Yeah,
who
I
they
think
are.
Exit plan.
Yeah, like
I always have an
being
exit
familiar with
plan.
the house helps a lot too, because
Yeah.
then you know where everything is. And so if you are in that position, you can, like,
Right.
you know.
My training
Okay.
is always to have be between the door and them. Like,
Yeah.
I've never let them be blocking the door from me.
I have mace, but you know, I spray myself probably. I would accidentally go, get back. And then I miss the boat, we're just, you know, going to the restroom or something.
Some of you gals are packing, I know, so you got that part taken care of. Let's talk a little bit about follow-up plan. Like once you get the contact information, Ruben, you know, what you say you put it in your CRM.
Yeah.
You know, are you hounding these people? I mean, you just, you know, periodically just reaching out to them?
I send them a thank you email that day, so they receive it, and I ask if there's anything else I could do. And I also, in the email, I tell them I'm gonna add them to Zap. I don't say Zap, but I just have a personal portal that they can do home searching on. And so then I'll text them, that. I'll text them Zap. I also text them my contact information to add to their phone, because they don't always have a business card. They can lose it, but you know they could always add your contact into their phone.
So you share your personal contact? How does that work? How do you?
You can.
From once you open your contact, you share it to their.
So you might want to put under title of that Arrowhead Realtor.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
you share that,
Yeah.
and they remember.
And I have a specific contact just for, you know, Coldwell Bank. I don't share all my personal information.
Right. Yeah, great.
I'm big on texting. That's because it takes 5 seconds. Most people don't want to talk to you anyways. Hey, it was nice meeting you, blah, 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 blah. And like regard to like follow up, like I put them in my contact management system, and then if you could, Zap's really good with you create the reminder on what you write in the notes, what they're looking for, create the reminder. So then in 2 weeks or what have you, go on the MLS, see if anything new has come on. If you see something that meets their parameters, I send it to them in a text message, because for some reason I get more response with a text message. I think it's because it depends on age, but I also think it's because it's so easy to text people. It's even easier than an email, because like email you have to go in or whatever, a text message pings and it's on your screen. I don't really know what the science is there, but the text is great. Oh hey, here's a new property.
I think one of the reasons is because email is more of like part of your day when
Yeah,
they go and check
exactly.
it. And they go through text is like it's right
It's
there,
right
and
there.
you're always looking at your text. Email is more
Yeah.
of when I'm at my computer or at the end of the day or
Email's typically not urgent.
yeah.
Yeah,
text
exactly.
a lot of times.
Where it's
Yeah.
like,
I don't always ask the question, but I have before, you know, what do you prefer, text or email? But if you get into practice of doing that more, that's something I would suggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to find out early on what their preference is.
Yes.
Because if they like text and you're calling on the phone, it's not gonna work.
They'll never pick up the phone.
Particularly the other way around. If they want to talk to you on the phone, which is usually an older person, don't text them because you'll never make that connection.
Don't assume that.
Yeah, when I was very first started to get my license, you and Lorene met a client in the front of the office, and you said, "Oh, what's your preferred method of communication? Do you like to email? Do you like to text? Do you like to phone call?" And that always stuck with me. So ever since, because you're right. I have clients who call me, and you're like, "Oh man, they're calling me." And then you have clients who text message you. It works for whomever. You have to be able to be fluid with that.
I think in terms of follow-up, whatever you do it with a sense of urgency. If you're doing an open house tomorrow, when you're done, when you get home, and you've got one client's information, put that information in. So when they get home, they've already got something from you, and they go, wow, this person's really on top of it. Then don't think because you've got them on an auto notification and they're getting stuff on a regular basis that they're gonna remember you and call you. Go back and look, because you can see the frequency with which they are looking at what you're sending them. Some people don't ever look. If you're sending them things weekly and they get it every Tuesday and Tuesday afternoon, every single week they're opening it up, you know they're probably pretty serious. So think about things, because it's hard, I think, for us to communicate with people. What do you say? What do you ask? So find things that work, whether it's stuff like the lake's full, or send them a short email of what concerts and what events are going on in the next 30 days. Those are kind of easy things to do that, again, don't take a lot of time, but you're going to put yourself at the top of their list, because I can tell you, most agents don't follow up. And if you do, you'll have a
call them then too, or just put them in your auto noto stuff and then
we only call if we find what we think is the perfect house for them.
Right.
And you kind of get to know whether they like a call or you get the sense that you're bothering them. So again, you got to figure out that person and what their preferences are.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So how do you manage your? I'm sorry.
Sophie's.
Oh, Sophie, okay. No, you go. How do you manage your calendar so that you know when to send those contacts or those reach out and touch someone messages after you've met them at an open house? Do you have like a certain in your Outlook where you go, this week I need to contact so-and-so again?
What we do, and it's just, we've tried different things, and what seems to work best for us is we take the last week of the month, and that's where we do the communication for everybody at one time. So then you kind of just get in the system. You know, if you're at the end of March, we look at what events are going on in April. Because we take the events, what's going on in Lake Arrowhead, and we include, you know, the outlying areas. If there's some big event going on in Running Springs or the Press Line, we'll include that as well.
Cool. I think that's what's tied in with a lot of that is that, because I personally do not like the new MLS system when it comes to the auto notification thing, because they have to go in and register for that.
Exactly.
And they just don't. So if you send the link to your website via Zap or your Coldwell Banker website or what have you, you capture your data, you get all of that kind of good stuff. You can go on and you can see when they're searching your website. So then you know when people are looking and all that kind of good stuff. And then it's like, okay, and within that you have your notification and you can set reminders for, oh, look for houses with the view for so-and-so, or oh, at the end of the month you can do, because it's a contact management system all in one, you could do your events and all that kind of good stuff. So I think, me personally, I don't like the new MLS system in that regard at all when it comes to it, because nobody registers for it. Send them the link to your app, to your website, boom, it's on their phone, it's so much easier. And then they can do whatever they want. They want to search for $1.5 million homes, or they want to search for $250,000 homes. They can do whatever. It's not just specifically the parameters you set up as well.
Anything to add, Ruben?
No, it's mostly Zap. It's because you get notified, but there is a certain time. I go through all my contacts, I have it all in a spreadsheet that, it's like, oh, you know, I haven't heard from that person, and I would just shoot them a message, so.
Yeah. So, any other, we're gonna wrap it up here.
Sophie has a question.
Oh, sorry.
My question.
Okay, so, this has been fantastic.
Lot of
because
information.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, you guys really did a super job, but Bob, did you have a question?
Had a house that had so many features in it that it was almost overwhelming. So we took and typed up and enlarged to 1117 all of the features of the house, posted on the wall, just 2 pins hanging from there. They couldn't ignore it no matter what, and they keep coming back to see if they saw everything.
Oh, I just had
Good idea.
I had a comment, which is always quite a good idea, like if there's a flyer box outside the house, take the flyers out.
Yes.
Right.
Because a lot of people will drive by, stop,
And then
and to look at the, see the price or whatever, and then just drive straight on. So if you are doing an open house, and there's a flyer box, just either take the flyer box down, or take the flyers out, so you get people to come into the house, as opposed to.
especially if it's not your listing too.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
when I do,
well, I might just go outside and say, hey, come on in, take a look, and then they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't got it. Okay, I'm talking.
That's why she does it.
But
She's peeking through the curtain.
No, I have to throw my notes up there.
I always
Yeah,
have
I'm
to
bored.
back down.
yeah, see, I know like some people
Visibility.
will take down signs and flyer box. I don't ever take like.
I don't take the sign.
I don't take the sign down, but I
flyer
take
box.
the flyers out of the flyer box.
Yeah, like when I'd hire cards and stuff like that, and I'm done, I'll put them back.
Yeah, exactly. I did run out of cards once.
I take my kids as well, they're really good.
Anything else that you guys had down that we didn't cover that you wanted to share with the group as far as other tips and tricks? You guys did an amazing job. Really, really good stuff, and let's give a round of applause.
One thing. What I always do is take a little list of the properties in the area that are.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then also in that price range in the area. So you got that handy, and you might be able to pass out some things.
Because sometimes if you're holding a listing that's $800,000, okay, how often do we sell $800,000 homes? Over 350,000, 400. They're still a qualified buyer too. So have something where it's like, oh, so yes, you may not be interested in this one, but here's a whole set of things. And I tell people that I'm like Arrowhead's a very unique market. We have homes go from low end 300,000 to upwards of 14 million. You have everything in between. So you can, if you're in the upper end of the market, great. If you're in the lower end, great. We can find you something that meets all of your needs, that matches your budget.
I think that's the importance of the broker tour for me, is just learning the inventory, because I've, several occasions I said, when people would bring that up, I said, no, but I know the house, when I get off at 4 o'clock, are you available to go see it? And I've done that several times.
So you don't put them in the car and say, hey, let's
Oh,
go
yeah,
down.
let's hit on that. Yeah, let's hit on that. Go ahead, Fred.
I think what we do is a little bit different, it sounds like. You should know in your head the best 2 homes, 300, 400, 500, 600. So if they come in and they go, well, we're looking up to 600, there's a great house up on Calgary for $599. That's kind of exactly what you're looking for. Would you like to go see it?
It's fallen out of escrow 4 times.
You notice I picked your list too, right? I say, would you like to go see it? If they say yes, I put them in the car. I take the sign down in front of the house, and I take it. I don't say, you want
I'll
to,
tell them I'll after 4.
you want to come
You're
back?
a man.
If it's slow and it's close to closing, I've done that.
Yes.
And then I go back.
But if it's
But
like
if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
noon and so
Yeah,
many people,
people
I'll
there.
say,
I'll put them in the car.
I'm closing it.
you pack up the open house and go.
Yeah, absolutely.
See,
Make sure there's
I
no
won't.
acceleration
I'll
first.
wait until I'm done, and most people are more than happy waiting till 4 o'clock. It's normally like an hour or 2 away.
Yeah.
And
Go look at my house.
exactly. Well, and I'll be like, okay, so here's everything. I'll set up a whole list. Is there anything else in particular? And just at 4 o'clock, we'll meet them at a house. or
If
we
you
can meet
send
at
them
the
off,
hearing.
you know that they want to go. You know about Calgary. It's the best house for $599. And you send them off to come back. Do you tell them where the property is or the address, or do you keep that?
I'll text them the address really close when we're gonna go. Like,
Okay.
Yeah,
like 30 minutes,
exactly.
15 minutes
I'll meet
before.
you here just when I can.
You're not worried about them just going and leaving you in the dust? No.
He wants his house.
Because I think by that point you've built up enough of a relationship where it's like they trust you, they want to, at that point they want to move forward with you. And
You guys are the pros at this, but I probably would do what Fred does.
I would take the risk of
I
them
don't want
finding
to-
another agent or
I don't
changing
want
their
them,
mind.
I don't want them running into
Well, plus.
Sophie or somebody else.
Because I take and start my
She's much more charming than I
Going back to Fred's point, I've always left the house and go with it, that's a lock. I've never missed putting things down and taking them out, I've locked them. Even if they've got an agent, when I drop everything for them, I'm their guy.
Yeah,
Cool.
because they
And then you
believe
just-
that you think that they're important.
You just go back and you lock up and then you go back and shut it
Right.
down when you're through showing that.
Exactly.
Just lock, okay.
You might wanna, if that's your strategy, you might wanna let the seller know that, right?
Yeah.
Because if he comes back to his house and you're supposed to be doing open house
And
and
you're
it's
not there,
locked
but your
up,
signs are
And
there.
that might be problematic.
And don't you leave Lorene at the house or no?
We never do open houses together.
Oh, you don't? I didn't know that, okay.
No, we do them separate.
I think it's quite, that's quite a good, because we try and do like a team, like we'll all do it one weekend, and so you could always like call Julia and say, hey, look, I'm locking up because I've got a hot one in my car, So that's always quite a good thing, maybe teaming up with someone else to do it for the weekend.
Plus, if you're on a team, like when we do it, we'll try to do like a wide range of prices. Like we're not gonna do all over $1 million. So then you can say, well, we're not interested in this property, but I'm looking for something in the mid-4s. Oh, well, my team's holding an open house at this house and it's listed for $450. Why don't you go over there and check it out next? Here's where it is, follow the signs.
That's a good point, because I've done that with Pat. Pat had 2 open houses on West Shore, North Shore, and we had flyers for each one. Say, oh yeah, go ahead.
So work as buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to be on a team, but the whole bang there is
exactly.
You felt that when you do open houses, you made an obligation to that seller for that amount of your time to be there to try to sell their home. You don't go say, let me do this. I doubt that I'm gonna sell it, but I'm gonna pick up buyers by being here at your home. So I think it's very tricky on how I've never closed up. I'm the same way. I'll say to them, I'm available. It makes it look like you're a professional, that you've got an obligation. You are doing, you've put this amount of time
That's how
here.
that's how I
But
explained
I will
it too.
definitely meet you and take you to this other one, but I also am pretty much the same way. I tell them I have a house, but I don't tell them where it's at.
Great to have different perspectives, for sure.
Yeah.
I think different
It's
styles.
whatever
There's no
works.
right or wrong.
Yeah.
For sure, what works for you, at the end of the day is how it,
I
is
just have
the
one
best scenario.
comment.
Yeah.
Back in 1977,
I was 13.
my husband and I came up and we'd been out with a realtor all day, and I wasn't in real estate till 78, so.
Watch out.
Anyway, there was an open house sign, and we go, oh, let's go look at it. We walked in, and there was a fire in the fireplace, and there was lasagna baking in the kitchen. That, needless to say, we bought that house. But it just goes to show the smells of the season.
Yeah.
And this was November, so it was in a time of month. And so if your seller doesn't mind if you put a crock pot in
Do dinner.
I've never done that,
Cookies
but
work great.
I think the big thing is like depending on the season, if it's hot, make sure your windows are
Well,
open.
of course,
Or,
that's true.
if it's cold, make sure the heater's on, because it's not fun for you to sit there in the cold or the hot, and it won't be fun for everybody to come through either.
So real quick, there was a question that I had on my sheet that I didn't ask.
Okay.
And that is open house setup, and you just reminded me of it based on that. So, do you have anything as far as, like how many signs? Julia, you mentioned just a couple signs.
Yeah.
Fred, you mentioned a bunch of signs.
As many as you can.
As many as I can.
Right, so,
Because
It's free marketing. It's got your name and phone
I
number.
don't think that this.
what about
like,
the actual, obviously
super-
go in, open up all the windows, all the lights
Yeah.
all
on.
the lights on.
Anything else that's unique that you do as far as having the house ready?
I always have water and cookies, so.
Yeah.
Water and cookies and the Arrowhead wood maps with my card stapled on it. That's it.
Magazines,
Magazines,
flyers,
flyers,
anything,
newspapers.
maps. Oh, we didn't mention, always take a property profile and a parcel map.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Actually, that's funny. I haven't even know. That's important because it comes back to the knowing the house thing.
Yeah.
Know the year it was built, and know how long they've owned it, and then because the question always is, well, where does the lot end?
Yeah.
We never know. But if you have that map, you could say, oh, I bet you it's about here, and here's the plot map. You can look at it.
Yeah. That's good.
So outstanding job, guys. Great. Super good. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us.